Welcome to this episode of the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Outen, and today is another throwback episode of the best of my most downloaded episodes, going all the way back to circa 2020 when I started the Awakening Women rebrand of this show. This podcast this month is 9 years old. Now that is commitment. I read somewhere that most podcasts don't go beyond the first 8 episodes. I'm not sure where that stat came from, but really it just highlights that a lot of people start a podcast probably from the wrong intent. Mine has always been because I want to share my messages and I hate going on video. So that's where this came from. Been my main platform and way that women have found me. Women have found my programs. Women have completely changed their lives, oftentimes from this podcast as the first step. So I continue to put my energy into it. I am bringing fresh new episodes here and there, but I think it's really important to go back into the archives and look at the downloads where there were episodes that had multiple thousands of downloads per episode. That says a lot, right? That says that is what women were seeking. And so I've gone through these archives of hundreds of episodes, and I'm pulling from them to highlight these episodes with a little bit more of a fresh perspective. I'm all about, and always have been about, women breaking these cycles that they tend to find themselves in within love relationships by really tapping into their self-love, their power, their boundaries, their standards, healing what is going on beneath the surface that normalizes this type of cycle going on in a love relationship, the cycle of the ups and downs, the not being able to share how you feel without it blowing up or turning into a big fight about you. Not being able to communicate, not getting any of your relational needs met, feeling like you're with someone that doesn't care to make any effort at all, or that you don't really matter to them, that you're not a top priority, where you just kind of feel like you're there in the relationship and not being valued. So these are big things, right? These things impact every area of our lives when we are with someone that is not valuing us, or at least it feels like that's the case by the way that you're being treated. And so one of the things that I've seen as a pattern with women over and over is when they come in to work with me, a lot of times they're wondering, like, is this me? Is it me that is perpetuating this? Am I doing something wrong? And they truly do question if they are the reason. And so that's why a big part of what I do when women have come into my 30-day End the Cycle boot camp was what it was called prior. I've stopped running those. I used to do those quarterly, where I would open up a new cohort and keep running them. And I'm getting back into that again. I have one opening this month, and it's cohort based. So that means that once I have closed registration, then it will not reopen again. And I'm not sure when it will be, but it will likely be in the new year at some point. So if you're wanting to find a new path forward within the cycle of the highs and lows in your relationship, and you want to hit the ground running and do something about this now before we enter into the holiday season, before the new year, then you want to get inside of this cohort, because this is going to be a 2.0 version where I am bringing new perspectives. It's more of a deep dive into your own process, but as well as getting real clarity on what is actually going on within your particular dynamic. Because a lot of times the patterns are the same, but how women are interpreting them and engaging in the patterns could be different based on your history. And there is a cycle that you have within the cycle. And I want to help you figure that out, because this is all about bringing power back to you. It's not about trying to change him or fix him, because we know that doesn't work. So this is about you fixing you, meaning, all right, so what are my patterns? What are my unhealthy traits in this? What are my unhealthy cycles that I get into that keep this dynamic going, where there's no change that can possibly happen, that you're both locking horns? There's no space for anything to be any different the way that it's going right now. So this 30 days is about taking that space, looking within, and I show you exactly what to do. This is a process that I've been taking women through since my very first cohort in 2019. And I haven't done one of these live in over a year now. So if you want to get a spot, the spots are also limited because I offer support in Telegram over that 30 days where you can get coaching from me. This is a really great deal because it's $3,500 to work with me for a month in Telegram. So you get access to me over the month to get coaching while you're in the boot camp. This is like a 30-day intensive intervention. This is a no bullshit. Like, I'm ready to figure this out, come up with my plan, and work the plan. That's what we're doing inside. So to get your spot, just head to the link in the show notes. There's a link. You can check it out while you're listening. Scroll into the show notes. You can also get the links on my social media channels on Instagram. On the link, there is always the newest links there. So if you're listening way after the fact, then still check the links out on Instagram because I may have a wait list up for the next cohort. So that's what we're working on this month, is breaking cycles and starting fresh into the new year with new standards, new boundaries, new vision, and really stepping into self-sourced power. All right, so this episode is all about understanding the cycle within emotionally toxic dynamics. This is beyond just being with someone that you're misaligned with, someone that you don't maybe see eye to eye with, normal relationship conflict. This is how you know that you're dealing with something a lot more embedded that is going to take a lot more than you dragging him to therapy or trying to explain for the 100th time how he's hurting you. This is what we're breaking out of. This is what we're going to be doing in the 30-day boot camp, because you're not allowed to do any of those things anymore because I'm actually showing you the pathway out of that trap. So I'm going to play that episode now. Let's get started. Class all about the phases of the emotional and psychological abuse cycle. And there's a lot of abuse cycles out there that you can find, but I find so many of them don't really nail it completely when you're dealing with covert emotional abuse, right? A lot of them deal with things like physical battery and stuff. So I created my own little graphic that is on the worksheet that you can have, because it really, to me, is more of an accurate visual of what you actually are experiencing. So some things that you probably are feeling when you're in the cycle, and remember, it's the cycle phases happening as a pattern that leads to these feelings, okay? The cycle is not separate, it's all one, all right? So you're feeling probably confused and like you can't cope, like you can't think straight, you can't make decisions, even the smallest decisions just feel so overwhelming. The day-to-day functioning feels very insurmountable because you are consumed by the constant emotional stress and the traumatic stress and the effects of being gaslit and invalidated and made to feel like it's your fault, that it's all your issue. You're probably feeling emotionally numb. You might just feel like you've had so many highs and lows that sometimes you get to a numbness level where you just don't feel anything. Definitely confusion is a big one that is a main umbrella of all of this because the different phases of this cycle bring about the confusion. It's like a whirlwind of just so much going on that you actually can't think straight. That is a sign you're in the cycle. The other thing is anxiety, depression, and feeling helpless to change. So those are some of the keys of being in this. As I said, End the Cycle is an in-depth program on the cycle, so I'm not teaching the whole program here, but we're going to do an overview because right now you need to have some clarity that you might be thinking that there's just certain things that are happening here, happening there, and they're all isolated. But when you start to see that there's a cyclic nature to it, you can start to detach and see things much more clearly. And then that helps you feel more empowered, more confident in yourself to go, okay, so this is what's going on. It isn't actually my fault. I actually am allowed to bring up the issues that are troubling me. What is happening to me is real, even though he's telling me it's not real, or he's telling me I'm overreacting, or I'm just looking for a fight, or that he didn't mean it, or blah, blah, blah. That's what you've been telling yourself. So inside you're like, is it me? Is it something I'm doing? Do I just need more counseling? I just don't know, right? So that's what really breeds that confusion, okay? So that's just what you might be experiencing. I don't know if that resonates. Let me know in the comments if that is what you're feeling or if it's something else that you're feeling right now. All right, so as outlined on the worksheet, you're going to go through and answer some questions once I've gone through the phases, and I'm just going to go through them quickly. So I'm going to start with, because you can start anywhere, but I'm going to start with the tension phase, because probably a lot of you can recognize what that feels like, where it just feels tense. You're walking on eggshells. You don't know what's coming next. You don't know how he's going to respond to things. Your body's feeling kind of shut down and just really clenched. You're not really sure what to say. You're not really sure what to do. And it just feels intense. All right. So that is one phase of it. So things build up, and then eventually there will be some kind of incident, is what I call it. Some on the cycle call it abuse incident or something like that. But I just am saying incident, like something happens that causes things to escalate, whether it's likely something he says or does that is being abusive toward you emotionally. So it could be any of those stonewalling, gaslighting, blame shifting, crazy making kind of interactions that create this reaction within you. And a lot of times it's the reaction that you have that actually gives him more fuel to blame you, because what they're doing is often so covert and so backdoor that they can be like, oh, I didn't even do anything. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it like that. And meanwhile, your head just exploded and you lost your shit, right? So then you look like the unhinged one. So that's a common dynamic that can happen, okay? So there's an incident. So whatever that is, you might be able to come up with something recent that was an incident that caused you to go into a certain pattern. And you're going to go into this in the worksheet. Like, what do you do when something like this happens? Is it that you start to blame yourself, that you go inside yourself, that you go into a depression, that you use some kind of addiction yourself, like food or alcohol or something like that, scrolling on social media mindlessly? So what do you do when something like that happens and you don't really know how to cope? You might also go into the feeling of intensity that I just need to get out of here, like fight or flight. Right? Of like, I need to get out of here. Everything in your body is just going run, right? That's your fight or flight response. Okay. So then there's this incident that happens, and likely because you are in a relationship with someone who's got some narcissistic qualities, instead of the incident being repaired healthfully, there's just some distance that comes. So this could be the silent treatment that you all, I'm sure, have experienced on some level. There is a period of distance after that incident, right? Whatever that looks like. It could be you that pulls back and you're just shocked and traumatized and going through your own experience, and you are the one that takes distance. So for whatever reason, there is a phase of distance after the incident, okay? And then the next thing that happens, and I will say this doesn't necessarily happen and look the same for everyone, but there is a commonality to the love bombing phase. I also like to call it the honeymoon phase, where when things were so good after your honeymoon kind of thing, or when you first got with this person, how good it felt. It's like you're re-experiencing that again, and then you're going, oh, it's finally going to get better now. Maybe he finally gets it, or I feel so good during this phase. It's like this high that you get. I'm finally getting my needs met, when that's how it should be all along. But because it's this intermittent reinforcement that's what makes you feel so confused, because you've just been abused and mistreated, belittled, mocked, criticized, demeaned, whatever, verbally attacked. And then there's no repair made, and there's distance, and he acts like nothing ever happened, right? Wants to just pretend like it's under the rug and all good. And then there's this phase where he's doing something to try and hook you back in. So It can look different for everyone, but it could just be where he's telling you he's going to get help. He's going to go to therapy. He's going to change. He brings you flowers. He books a trip. He tells you everything you want to hear, is helping around the house more, doing all of the things that he knows you want from him that in the other parts of the cycle he's not doing. Now all of a sudden he's doing them and it feels so good. So every time that happens, you're like, maybe this time it'll last. Maybe this time it will stick. And so you kind of just relax in that. And so then from there, there's a period of calm. Okay, there's a period of calm because you're like, oh, okay, my nervous system can relax. There's probably no abuse going on in that where he is really on his best behavior because maybe you've said, I'm leaving, I'm out, I'm done for like the 100th time. This is the cycle, ladies. It's the crazy making. It's why you feel freaking crazy. That's not how a healthy relationship is supposed to go. It shouldn't leave you feeling confused and all the highs and lows and ups and downs. So when you're in a relationship like this, that's what it feels like all the time. You're almost always in one phase of the cycle about to head into the next, unless somebody breaks that cycle. And it's probably not, well, it's not going to be him at first. He's going to have a major part to play in it, of course, because he's the one driving it. But the part that you are going to be doing is starving that energy that you're putting into that cycle. Okay, and that's what we talk about inside of ETC is how do you start to do that so you're no longer feeding the energy of this ugly entity that he is driving to get his needs met through your energy. And you've heard it being called narcissistic supply, but I just call it energy. If you read the book that I recommended, Dodging Energy Vampires, she is a doctor. I absolutely love Christian Northrup. Anything you can get your hands on by her, get it. She's amazing. But she wrote the book called Dodging Energy Vampires. And I know some of you read it and here you've heard me mention it, but it's about they're feeding off of your energy. Because you're an empath, you're a healer, you're a nurturer, you are driven, you're a fixer, you have those qualities that feed that egoic side, that feeling like, he's getting something positive he needs from you. And then eventually what happens is you start to literally feel like you are being sucked dry. But the thing is, and this is the thing, is that you are allowing it. You get to decide who gets to siphon off of your energy, right? You may feel like you don't have that, and I get it, because when you're in it, it's really hard to know that and know what to do to protect your own energy and protect your own emotional balance. But that is your work if you are choosing right now to stay in it. And the thing is that if you don't do this work now, you will just end up in a similar situation because the inner vibrational, emotional, psychological belief patterns within you will just attract a similar person with a different face, maybe slightly different traits or behaviors that he will use, but it will just be another of the same crazy making situation. I don't know how many times I've seen this just in my own life, personally, my experience, a very good friend of mine, in forums that I'm in that I follow just to really see what people are struggling with. I like to be in certain groups to read stuff, and the stuff that women are like, oh, I thought he was going to be the good one, and now he's doing this and he's texting and cheating and just horrible stuff. And it's got to start with you, where you decide that however long, if you decide right now, I'm going to spend the next, I don't know, let's just throw out a number, 60 days focused fully on me, my healing, my wholeness, my self-growth, my self-care, getting to know me, coming back to me and what the hell I want and what I feel, regardless of whether he validates me or not, that I'm going to find a way to feel my very best self and to be who I want to be in this relationship despite what he's doing. Now that in itself will make you one hell of a force of a woman, right? Because then you get to take that version of you with you if you do decide to leave. right? Because you're not going to tolerate something like that ever again when you get to that level within yourself. Am I making sense? I'm not saying to tolerate abuse. I'm not telling you to leave. I'm not telling you to stay. I'm saying that if you are in a place where you are in the relationship and you don't know what to do, or you've left and you're still feeling the pull, or whatever, wherever you are, do you understand that if you don't do this healing work on yourself now, that you're going to just attract a similar type of person into your life? Because wherever you go, there you are. Why do you think it's so common for women to end up in a string of abusive relationships? They leave one and they think, oh, thank goodness I'm rid of that. Then they find someone else they think is Mr. Charming, only to find months later he's something else. Leave that relationship, on to the next, and then the same thing, right? So of course you're going to get roped in if the person's on their best behavior for the first while, until you're somehow hooked in financially, with business, with kids, with a house, with whatever. That's when you're hooked. That's when you'll start to notice things really escalating. They're on their best behavior until then, right? And the covert narcissistic types are masters of that love bombing in the initial phase. But if you were healthy and knew the signs, you would know what love bombing is like and what that is. And you would be able to look back on it and go, yeah, something was still off. Like, I know I felt like something was off, but I couldn't put my finger on it because he was just being so wonderful, over the top almost, which made me uncomfortable because it was so early in the relationship. But that's a sign, that fast start. That's how they get you into the cycle. So once again, if this resonated with you and you want those next steps, that pathway to clarity and a plan forward that is really going to move the needle, then get inside of the Break the Cycle 30-day intervention. This is a bootcamp style 30 days with me where you get to post and ask questions in our Telegram group and get the coaching and support that you need from me. To get into the program, click the link inside of the show notes here. And as always, there will be another episode every Thursday on this podcast. Sometimes I throw in extras and you'll find a other random episode thrown in where I end up doing 2 per week. Some weeks I've done more than that if I'm feeling extra, like I have a lot more to say. But moving forward, there will still be those Thursday episodes that will always be up. And then anything additional is just icing on the cake for you there if you're our loyal listener. And one other thing I have to ask is if you leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening to this episode, whether it's Spotify or iTunes, that really helps the show to get that extra attention. And one of the things that I just realized is that we are in the top 1% of podcasts. So this is as far as listenership in over 50 countries, the amount of downloads and listeners that we have on a monthly basis. And also because this podcast, as I said, is 9 years old. So it's built some cred, I guess, because I have really built it up. So if you also have someone you want to share this with that you think maybe is experiencing something like this, sometimes that can happen. And honestly, that was what happened with me. Is I had a really good friend that had gone through something similar, and she handed me a book and said, I hope I'm wrong, but I think this is what's going on. And that changed everything for me. So that's the perfect way to segue here. If this is something that you think a friend or family member, a loved one, a coworker, someone is experiencing this, just send them a link and say, I could be wrong and I hope I'm wrong, but just have a listen to this. That she actually handled it really well. She did it with love, and it was someone I trusted. And that's really what I want, is for this message to be shared so that if another woman is suffering with this cycle and doesn't understand what's actually happening to her, she can get clarity, because as soon as a woman gets clarity, she can start tapping into her power. All right, I'll chat with you in the next episode. Bye for now.